Gidding of HGTV's Curb Appeal, and he and Eric are going to have a seat here in front of you, and we're just going to talk a little bit about what you can do with your home, and I know John has lots of great ideas, so
cool.
Let's get started.
I guess it's called the hot seat.
Yes, yeah, last year was director's chair, so this is a little more comfortable.
All right. How's it going?
Oh,
Good. Very cool. Pleasure to meet you, Eric.
Yes, you as well.
I've been hearing a lot about you.
Well, lots of people's words. You had quite a crowd yesterday, I noticed.
Yes, it's been great so far. It's been great turnout. I'm doing a new thing this year where I put together this presentation because I had literally a 26-hour flight to Orlando. I flew to Orlando from Delhi, India. So during the 26 hours, I had to do something. And I put together a whole new presentation that's first time here at EPCOT. And it's been going well so far, except for the fact that I'm really slow. So it's broken up into 7 chapters, and between the 2 presentations yesterday, I've gone through chapter 3. So this morning I start with chapter 4. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so anything you want to ask, I'm happy to hear. Or not.
It's going to be really quick.
I have a question. I read that you were recently in Haiti.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you did there, and did you know about the Haitian Garden that's here at the Flower and Garden Festival?
I didn't know you were just in Haiti.
Yeah.
There's a company, Haiti Original, who is working with us. We have a garden backed by Germany, and the whole purpose of the garden is to make Americans aware of high-quality Haitian products. So we're highlighting and growing coffee and then selling coffee and sugarcane because we're selling our
Right, absolutely. The Haitian economy is reliant on very few things, and agriculture is one of those few things. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's irony.
I was in Haiti because Habitat for Humanity asked me to come and bring a little bit of spotlight to some of the efforts that they're undertaking over there. Haiti is some of the highest number per capita of NGOs working there. So there's a limited amount of success in that country with regards to how much effort is being put in there. And of course it's because the government isn't necessarily on the stablest of footings, but they recently had a new election. There's high hopes for some more progress in the coming year. I was there for the 13th month after the big earthquake. So given that a year had passed, there was already some considerable progress, and that's why I was there. I didn't actually build anything. Certainly Curb Appeal has no place in Haiti just yet. But at the same time, it was both heartening and disheartening. So there's a lot of strife in that country, but there's also a lot of hope. So it's good to be a part of it and try to bring some attention to it. Habitat, of course, is doing great work all over the world, but especially in Haiti, I feel like they're innovating in ways that they've had to because the housing shortages there are so stark.
When I was, right when you come in, we were talking about the garden, and one of the points I was about to make is I heard a couple of Haitian cast members make the comment, because it's showing high quality Haitian products, and they're saying, you know, it's so nice to finally let people see that not everything in my country is bad, right? There's good stuff too. So there's amazing pride in our cast members about that garden. Hopefully you get a chance to see it.
I will definitely, now that I know it's here, for sure. That's what I love about this Flower Garden Festival. It's different every year, actually.
Yeah.
And every year I'm surprised at how great it is.
Thank you.
I hear next year it's the 20th anniversary.
20th year.
20th year.
So we have to go through the 20th year to get to the anniversary?
Yeah. You don't count the day you're married, it's an anniversary day.
Oh, you're right.
I'm gonna have to stay another year?
Unless you're in marketing, then you can.
Yeah, the 20th anniversary is 21, so.
John, I was wondering if you wanted to talk to our group a little bit about some of the top questions that you get in the presentations that you do downstairs. And I know you have one at noon and one at 3 today.
Yeah, typically the first question is, how do you pick your homes? And question number 2 is, how can I get my home picked? So after I field those 2, I think the most common question is, what's the easiest thing that I can do to improve my curb appeal? People want to spend a little amount of money and a little amount of time and want to get a lot of bang for that buck. And I think that's one of the reasons why Curb Appeal the Block became as popular as it did. It's not the $20,000 design for which I slave over, but it's those 2 little neighborhood projects that I kind of design on the fly that have really drawn attention to the show, because it shows people all across America that, first of all, the top 5 responses to trying to improve curb appeal are the same for every kind of architecture, every kind of house, every situation. You just focus on the entry process. It's the path, the mailbox, the house numbers, lighting, door hardware, the color of the door, and some flowers. And after you've covered those 5 bases, it's essentially, it's under $1,000 that you're going to spend. It's just a weekend-long project, and your house looks literally thousands of dollars better. The economy having taken a little bit of a downturn recently, I think is another reason why the show is doing well, because it's less about flipping houses, it's more about keeping what you've got and improving it and trying to find ways of embedding value into your property. And that's what curb appeal is all about, not only because of the things that we do, the dollars that we add, but because of the community aspect. When we show neighbors that they can work together to create something in their street that's unique, and it benefits everyone's property values, that's the kind of thing that resonates with America today. Something that came up just yesterday that had never come up in any presentation was a lady that was talking about how her lighting was this way and her neighbors was that way, and she wanted a different kind of thing, and it got me thinking, if you're going to improve your lighting and you're friends with your neighbors, for an investment of maybe $200, you can propose to install lighting at other neighbors' homes as well. And suddenly you've created something that's very visible to anybody driving past your street. And if anyone's selling their home on that street, their chances of selling that house just went up. It gives a neighborhood feel, it gives a safety feel. So I'm really going to start to try to incorporate that with some of my future projects, is even if we're not working on the homes, maybe we can do a little something for them that ties a fabric together of the whole community, and before you know it, everyone's properties.
Can I ask you a question about this? Because water is a huge issue, and I have St. Augustine turf, little small yard, and I can't keep up with it. I have to hand water. So I'm just gonna rip out all of the turf between the sidewalk and the road. It's just gone. I'm tired of it.
Oh, that little strip you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
and at one end I kind of have Florida-friendly plants that require not too much. Your opinion in a nutshell, would you put shrubs in that whole thing? Would you mulch it? Would you nuke it? What would you do with that strip?
I would give it a nice acid bath. No, I'm just kidding. I've actually done 2 of those things. I've mulched that little strip before, and I've xeriscaped, which is to say a bit more of a dry landscape there. I'll use either a crushed granite or gravel or pebble kind of mulch to give it that sort of deserty look. I'll use sedums and succulents and a couple one-man boulders, sort of medium size, to create a little bit of a lyrical, idea there. But it's entirely maintenance-free.
I like the little boulders and the...
Yeah, because what it'll do is it makes it look purposeful. One of the problems with just mulch is it makes it look lazy. Whereas if you put just something there that catches the eye, has a little color to it, and is a color that doesn't take any maintenance, you've created something that shows you still have pride in that little strip, but you're not going to worry about it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I've done it before. It works.
And a plant that works down here for that kind of application is perennial peanut. Go out the Western Way.
What is it?
Oh, for the...
That's perennial peanut. It's a really low. You have to mow it once a year.
I think I'm going with the rock and rock
That's
and
a little too much
succulent.
maintenance.
Rock and rock and one succulent.
Once a year mowing.
Yeah. It's amazing how we finish these projects, and then I'll do a drive-by 6 weeks later, completely overgrown, dead plants, the gravel kicked around. You can't teach an old dog new tricks sometimes, and our homeowners, as good intentioned as they are not ready to take on a new kind of lifestyle, no matter how you cut it. So we have to keep that in mind. We used to approach it from the angle that most of our installations would be low maintenance. Some of them could actually be medium maintenance. Now they're all low maintenance.
I think the key word that I like is what you said, make it purposeful. So no matter what I do, I'll make it look purposeful. You're right. People forget that.
Yeah. Look, if it looks like it has some purpose, then people feel like you're out there taking care of your yard. And it's amazing how much pressure it puts on your neighbors to do the same thing. Typically by the end of the week where we're working on a project, everyone else on the street is outside mowing.
Speaking of teaching old dogs new tricks, I can't seem to teach my husband that it's really not a great idea in our backyard to throw the tennis ball over the pool screen so our dogs can run around and chase it and turn around and come back and bring it to him. So we've ended up basically with almost no turf. We had nice St. Augustine grass. So someone just recently came in and said, you should just put bahia back here if that's what you're going to do with, if you're going to let the dogs play back here like that. So is that something you would have recommended, or?
Just from an environmental standpoint, this is maybe a little too editorialized, but
that's all right.
Even in a neighborhood where you have to keep your lawn up to
homeowner standards or whatever,
that doesn't apply to the backyard normally.
Right.
If you put bahia in your backyard, then you're not going to have to water it at all, really, once it's established. As a matter of fact, the worst thing you can do with bahia is overwater, because then the weeds, it can take drought, weeds can't. So I would encourage everyone in Florida to have bahia in their backyard, but that's just me.
Oh, good.
I have bahia in my front backyard.
I can't get away with that in the front yard, but.
Has anybody used that fake turf yet? The one that's supposed to look like real grass?
We have some here in the festival, Forever Lawn. We see it as a professional threat. I said we see fake grass as a professional threat. But we do use it in the festival for high traffic areas, and there's some out there that I shouldn't.
It looks like
we do have really good cast members. I've seen it fertilized. I've seen it watered. It's been mowed.
Pixie Home.
Fairy Garden, Butterfly House, and the Let's Get Moving play area all have it.
Okay.
And it is, they even put brown stuff.
Oh yeah, it has it in there.
I have heard about, my neighbor trains her German Shepherds in some dog club, and she talked to me about some of the dog club people having that because the dogs tear up their yards and stuff.
Yeah, we have it in the kennels here.
You do?
Hose it off?
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it can be good stuff. It's not cheap.
It does look real.
You learn something new too.
We get a lot of offers to donate to the show, and we never take any of it. Partially because I love the fact that every episode is $20,000 and very realistic budget-wise for homeowners. We don't get the kinds of deals that would make our budget only a figurehead budget. The one thing that we do get, it's not a donation, but we get discounts on paint. Not the actual paint itself, but we'll hire one paint company to do 5 houses at once. And so we'll get a discounted rate, which is hard for a homeowner to recreate for themselves because they're only doing one house. But that's really it. It's a group discount, which is entirely within the aegis of what I do as a designer. So, I feel like when these things get offered to us, I have to say no so that we keep the show realistic. But we got the fake turf offered to us. And on that I said no, just based on principle. You can't put fake turf in a front yard. I mean, on your backyard, because of your dog, great. But no, not for a front yard.
Thank you for saying everything. And we get so many questions, as you I'm sure saw yesterday. If you're downstairs in the festival center and you're identified as a Disney horticulture cast member, you're going to get questions. Debbie will tell you that for you. But I'm just convinced there's some people living in homes who probably shouldn't. Because, I've got a yard, I don't want to have to do anything. What do I do?
But the watering issues do make it really tough, and we didn't face those. I live in Kissimmee until this year. They started basing your rate on your consumption, and before it was just a flat rate. So now if I if I water a lot, I have a lot of containers, so I've been reducing, and I think, gosh, how does that play into the city? Because then they want you to take care of your home and have pretty lawns, but on the other hand, you're penalized for watering, and you have to water.
You definitely have rain barrels, right?
I do not have a rain barrel.
Oh, they're great. I mean, we had a mini squall yesterday, and they would have been 100% full and kept you happy for a couple months. They're great. Rain barrels are great. They come in every size and shape, every style. They can be beautiful or super ugly. But they're super useful. And I try to install them whenever I have a homeowner that's interested in any kind of water preservation and stormwater management. They're fantastic. Yeah, they're great.
I'm going to have to get one.
Is there any other, I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
Is there any other little tip like that you can give that
I'm
people
planning
might
it. I
not
got
think
full of
about?
tips. You can ask my questions.
things that are obvious, but people just don't even think of them, but.
Well, the rainwater barrel is a big thing, but I think the most obvious thing is house numbers for creating curb appeal. I was a big fan of just going online and finding beautiful house numbers. They're so widely available and cheap that I strongly espouse it. But now I create house numbers for each homeowner that I design for. It's almost like a little way of giving them something unique for having been on the show. And that's taking up a lot of my time in a good way. Like it's such a pleasure to design numbers and cool fonts and stuff.
What do they make?
Typically steel, but sometimes wood as well. I have a plasma cutter. I found a race car shop in San Francisco. They build these sort of dune buggy race cars, but they have all the equipment that I need to do really cool decorative things. So one day they're building like roll cages for race cars. And the next day they're building like little Victorian squiggly cubes for me. But it's working out.
Reminds me of our topiary frames. We actually take our topiary frames to a boat trailer galvanizing place in Tampa where they galvanize boat trailers to dip the frames.
Wow.
So most days they're just doing giant boat trailers and here comes Mickey dumped in molten metal.
That's really cool.
Does anybody else have a question for John while he's here?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you have any new ventures coming up or anything in the works that you can tell us about.
I'm really excited to be the designer for Urban Oasis this year. Urban Oasis is HGTV's big urban giveaway. You know, the Dream Home, which I host, is a fantastic giveaway. I hope you all enter. Are they allowed to as media?
Absolutely.
You should enter. It's the biggest giveaway.
I think that guarantees coverage.
It's amazing. These dream homes are just astounding. But the Urban Oasis is basically the urban version, and I get to design it this year. I'm very excited. Can I tell them where it is?
Yeah.
I don't know if we've announced it yet.
Okay, then I'm not going to tell you.
We can announce it for you.
Got us
if you'd
excited
like.
now.
That would be
Tune in.
my job.
We can help with that.
Yeah, it'll be around the world in like 30 millimeters of a second by the time he
Yeah.
says it.
While you talk, I'll check.
Okay, hopefully I can tell you where it is. It's really exciting though, so I'll be designing that this year. I'm very excited. My firm is doing some really fun projects around the country. I recently flew to France to research something called the Menton Citrus Festival. And do you know it?
Well, I know about it. We actually did some citrus topiaries here early in the
cool.
festival. But it was only a 38-day festival, but keeping citrus for up 75 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got pretty
There's a citrus bowl parade in Orlando every year.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
do that.
Very
Fun.
cool. So we're going to try to do something like that in California.
nice.
So yeah, whatever comes my way, really, it's been nice. Curb Appeal shoots 9 months out of the year. We shoot 26 episodes in those 9 months, and we're in the middle of month 4. So I'll be busy for the next 5 months, but lining things up for afterwards.
What's the focus of your new presentation? Can you give us the abridged version?
Yes, I approach it from, typically it's been about whatever I was interested in that week. But I've been getting so many of these presentations recently that I rephrase the whole thing based on the questions that I typically get. It starts with, how do I get my house on the shelf? That's chapter 1. What do you do when you design these homes? It's another question I typically get, so that's chapter 2. What are some of the easiest, cheapest things that I can do for my house to improve it? That's chapter 3. Chapter 4 that we're about to start today, I forget now what the subtitle is, but I'm sure it has something to do with some question I was asked. So I basically framed it on the questions that people have been asking me over the years. And I open the floor up immediately, by the way. So even though sometimes my presentations repeat, though it doesn't look like they're going to this weekend, everyone is different because the questions that come up are so stupendously different. Every sort of zeitgeist of each audience group is separate from the one before and the one after it. So sometimes people are really interested in the behind-the-scenes stuff about television. They'll ask me questions about, our hair products and our costumes. And other times it's very much about plants. And I have to say, I'm not a horticulturalist. I've worked as a landscape architect, but I always rely on the expertise of people that have dedicated their lives to this stuff and know about microclimates. So when people are like, what's the difference between this, subgenus of, barberry bush and that? No idea, ma'am. That's my better question. So there we go. It's funny how every series of questions is different. And so my presentations are really based on the questions this year. and some of my proudest projects, much to HGTV's chagrin, I assume, although maybe not. I love showing projects that haven't aired yet. I feel like it's a tiny little sampling of people, and they should get the preview. So I try to include as many of our most recent projects as I can, so they get like their appetites whetted for the upcoming seasons.
I've seen one in San Francisco. It's really good. It's really good. I saw the one in San Francisco.
Oh
it's really
yeah,
good.
it was a fun one, that one. It's a beautiful project.
Maybe have time for one more question?
Did he get the answer yet? Oh, he's waiting.
We have 4 clues up. So you can probably figure it out from the clues. But I can't tell you.
What's one of the clues? You know?
Well, they're picture clues. Like there's a treasure chest.
Okay.
It's near a lighthouse. What is the other one?
I'm so glad I didn't say it. Oh my God.
There's a racetrack somewhere close. So.
Daytona
Okay.
Beach. That's my guess.
Because of the racetrack.
One more
Racetrack,
question.
lighthouse.
So can you put in order, you know, you were talking about for the homeowner who's not ready for a complete change in the maintenance of their home, put in order the things that they can do that are easy. Maybe they don't have a $20,000 budget for their own home, whether it's numbers, where do they start?
Absolutely. Number one, mailbox. That incorporates house numbers as well. Essentially, what do people look at to find your home? If it's the mailbox, that's the most prominent thing. That's the first thing that you need to fix. If you've got one of those crooked ones with like a enormous like ivy plant on it, you know what to do tomorrow morning, right? I feel like that crucial first impression is the number one step. So if your house is the kind where the front door is going to be the most visible, that's your first step. It should be a nice bright color. If it's going to be wood, it should be a door that actually hits sunlight. It shouldn't be deeply recessed. I feel like natural woods are only good when you can actually see them. But if they're in the shadow, it just looks like a gray, dark blot. That's the kind of door you have to paint. And that's when you incorporate bright colors. The first thing that, your first impression of a house should be warmth and life. So house numbers are also very important. I consider them number 2. But they kind of roll in with number 1. The path to the front door is crucial. A lot of homes in suburbia today will only have one path, and it'll be leading off the driveway, which is such a missed opportunity. You should really show how to go to the front door directly from the sidewalk, even if you never use that path. I've created decorative paths before. They're not expensive. Flagstone, which is such a beautiful material and can be laid down yourself with the most minimum of instruction, is a beautiful natural material that you can create a path with to your front door that maybe one guest uses every month, and you always use your driveway path, but it creates an enormous amount of warmth for your front door. Lighting is huge, and that rolls in with metal finishes matching. So if you've got brass door hardware, you're going to want a brass light and brass house numbers, and you know, same with brushed nickel or whatever. Even if you don't like brass, the overall effect of having all the metal finishes match has so much more value to it than your preference of stainless steel over brass. That if you don't have the money to change all your hardware at once, just stick with what you've got, because it'll create a complete family that looks fantastic. Also included in that top 5, I think, is seating. I used to get a lot of pushback on this. First couple seasons of Curb Appeal, I don't get any more pushback, because people have seen the difference it makes. When you put a little bit of seating out there, you can incorporate it in with a place for the mailman to drop off a box or something. They've got these great outdoor seats where the seat lifts up. But just a little bit of seating, it implies something about the neighborhood that you didn't imply before. Something about safety, enjoyment, community. And when you've got more than one house doing that, the feeling in the neighborhood changes. I think front yards used to be seen as a platter on which the house sat. But now it's slowly shifting to an actual room in the house, just like the backyard is. Especially in America, the backyard is the barbecue location. But the front yard is sort of I walk through it and I've got a perfectly manicured lawn that I put a lot of water into, and this is how it's got to be. But now it's about creating a lawn that works for you. Maybe it's not sod, maybe it's a culinary planting garden and a container garden on one side and a little bench here with a little courtyard. It's the front yard. It might as well be used as part of your square footage. So a little bit of seating. And I think the final touch is obviously going to be planting. I strongly recommend container gardening for people that don't necessarily have a green thumb, need to be a little bit more flexible and switch things out. I always tell people to go to their local nursery and talk to people there about which plants will survive in their specific microclimate. Get somebody to come out there, they'll probably do it for free. because they'll know that you'll be buying your plants from them, and just get their expertise as to what plants are going to survive where, and bring some life into your front yard that's not going to kill you in terms of watering or work.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here.